Hey guys, it's your host Ray, aka Remcreate. I'm coming to you from the future. Um, so I'm actually gonna be re-uploading this first interview with my homegirl Stephanie. Um, and I am picking up podcasting again, doing interviews with fellow creatives I've met throughout conventions. I recently just did an interview with D Pity. I have a really cool interview with my friend Ethel that's coming up today, of me recording this. And this first episode was a very like pilot episode. You just see my face in the corner. That's not gonna be consistent throughout the whole thing. And yeah, uh, hopefully you guys tune in, stick around, see what the content brings, and hopefully to entertain you guys and give levity to like the different creatives in the anime convention scene. Um, Without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this first interview that I did back in March, like when quarantine was barely starting. So just to give you context of when this interview was. So yeah, hope to see you guys around. So let me introduce you to my guest. This is a Steph Stone Cos.
Hello.
One of the very first Northern Californian cosplayers I met, Fanime 2017, I believe. Yeah, cosplay. What
Yes.
what got you into cosplay?
So the thing is that with cosplay, I unlike streaming, have like a very long history. I started cosplaying back in 2007, so it's been 13 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like 13 years old. I'm 26 now, so I was about like 13 years old when I cosplayed for the first time. But I got really addicted to the internet, the year before. I was like 12 years old. And the internet was like brand new. YouTube, I think, was just kind of starting to become a thing. It was, ages ago. So, lots of different websites around like cosplay.com and stuff like that. DeviantArt was still really big in the day. So other people cosplayed and put pictures online, and to like little 12-year-old me, that seemed like the coolest thing in the world to dress up as like these fictional characters because I'd always really been into anime and video games. So the idea of like dressing up like these characters and then, going out to locations and like taking photos that you could like pretend you were in the video game was like the coolest thing ever to me.
Yeah.
So that was honestly like the first sort of reason why I was getting into cosplay. And luckily at the time, because I feel like a lot of people get to that stage where they're very like, oh, like it seems really cool, but they don't actually do it. And for me, I was lucky because I had a best friend in middle school who her mom knew how to sew things. So she's like, okay, like let's actually do this. So for Halloween, we had made the Naruto costumes, and that's when we first like made like a cosplay.
Oh,
And then it was the
nice.
following year, yeah, that I made my first cosplay, like haphazardly cobbling things together, make a Tracy Wright from the Ace Attorney series. So
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, it's very old. First time I cosplayed was Anime Expo 2008, I believe that was. Oh, actually, my first convention, I went to anime conventions a little before that too,
Okay.
actually. My first anime convention was it was a convention called Anime Overdose in 2006,
Wow.
which the convention doesn't exist anymore. They rebranded their name from Anime Overdose to Animation on Display, shortened to AOD.
Yeah.
They used to be at the Cathedral Hill Hotel in San Francisco, but like the con doesn't exist anymore, and they tore down that hotel, so like there's nothing left of it. It's really sad. Like it's all gone now.
it's like
But
it's like all the memories just fucking destroyed.
I know all I have left of it are like the old like badges of it from like way back when, relics of like a really old time. But
Did you have
uh,
any like old accounts like on like cosplay.com or like any
yes,
yeah.
I did. I mean, like, I used cosplay.com because I liked to catalog like all the cosplays and stuff that I did, and then I used DeviantArt a little bit, but it wasn't too long after that. I think it was around 2010ish that Tumblr started to really become a thing, and someone I followed on DeviantArt actually made a Tumblr, and then I made a Tumblr, and then like from that point onward, like Tumblr was kind of like the home. And I actually have like a really old Tumblr that I had. Let me see if I can bring it up. That I had like cataloged, yeah, like all my cosplays and stuff like that. And was maintaining it for like a decent amount of time because I really liked having it was like me and like a couple of my friends that I managed to like rope into cosplay, but I really liked having this like catalog of all the different series and all the different characters that we would cosplay and everything. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah, I still kind of I mean I don't really go on cosplay anymore, but like most of my cosplay stuff online had moved to Tumblr
Oh, wow.
until Instagram became a thing, and then from Tumblr I moved on to Instagram.
Yeah, it's really weird because like there was like there's this transition that happened like on the
Hmm.
.com where it went from
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah like Facebook pages to like
Hmm.
Instagram when like the Facebook pages weren't traffic, and now
Hmm.
Instagram is getting that little limbo. But it's
Yes, it is.
running into people that recognize you for
Hmm.
like how do you like approach are
Yeah.
like
I mean, it's something that's been happening more in like recent years. It's very humbling. It's like strange and interesting because it's like like when I was a wee little like 12, 13-year old starting out in cosplay and I looked up to so many people, I always was like, oh, because like, I don't really work with photographers back in the day. It was mostly like my sister would take pictures of me or like my friends, and we were always like, oh, like I wish like someone would recognize me. I wish, like a photographer would want to take pictures of us, and like we wanted to be like recognized and everything. And now that I'm older and I'm getting all of this, I'm like, oh, it's like not that big of a deal. But like cosplay's changed a lot too. But it's like being recognized by like people and having like photographers want to shoot me. Like I always think about like back when I was like younger and like I didn't have that experience. And I'm always grateful whenever people like I love when people come up to me and that they recognize me. It's very strange because I'm just me living my life and just the idea that people know of me outside of like my own scope is like a very strange thing. I don't know if it's ever anything that I could get used to, but it also just kind of like reminds me that it's like things I do are also spectated by people that I don't necessarily interact with. But it's also like I like every time those experiences happen, I always like, it reminds me of how like I mean I do that too. Like I tend to like lurk like there's a lot of people that I look up to that I don't even interact with.
yeah
Um, but I, from being like on the receiving end of it, I mean, at least personally, it's like I love when people are brave enough to approach me because I'm really shy about approaching people that like I know online and stuff like that. I'm always like, oh God, I'm afraid. I think I'm gonna be like a nuisance.
I
But
feel that
when people come up to me, yeah, I'm always like, oh, I'm inconveniencing you. But like when people come up to me, I always feel really like I always really want to be like warm to them because it's like that they worked up the courage to come up to me because I mean I think it's scary. Maybe it's not so scary for them, but I think it's really scary. So they get props for me for doing that, and that they're taking time out of their day to like interact with me always like means a lot to me. So as much as possible, I want to make people feel like comfortable and like walking away with like a positive experience. Also because like with the trajectory of where I want to go with like my career and stuff like that, there will possibly be a time where it's like I won't be able to necessarily have these like one-on-one conversations with people as much as I'd like to. So I'd better, I feel like I should enjoy my time being able to interact with people while I can, while I'm still like fairly small time.
yeah I feel that completely. It's so you the one thing I really like about how you approach most of the cosplays that you do are you're a big nerd, and that's awesome. Like
Oh my god,
as
yeah.
as someone that's worked with you, that's it's always great. What are some series that you love cosplaying from?
That just like series in general that I'm just like a huge fan of cosplaying from.
Yeah,
Well, obviously, number one would be Final Fantasy VII. My Tifa cosplay has been constant ever since I started like really cosplaying her. She was one of my first cosplays from when I was like super duper young. I think the first time I cosplayed her was like in like 2010ish. I did like Advent Children Tifa, but she's a character that like someone once told me like, oh, Final Fantasy VII's like not that big a deal. You should like not cosplay Final Fantasy VII as much and cosplay things that are more popular. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, because cosplay's always been like a passionate thing for me. I'm like, why would I ever do that? And I was like, because I don't like cosplay for like attention or anything like that. I cosplay because I'm, like you said, like a huge nerd about these things. I love cosplaying as Tifa, so I'm gonna keep cosplaying as Tifa. I also there was like a good chunk of time where I was super into Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I think was when we first met. When I
Yeah,
did
no.
my Misato Katsuragi cosplay, I was like super duper like I've always really like loved Evangelion, but there was like a couple years where it was just like all I was doing, like all the time was just like Evangelion cosplays. I was super into cosplaying it. So that's like another series that I really love. Those are honestly kind of like my main two, I think. I'm trying to think of like other things that I've done. Because I mean, like video games as a whole, I feel I lean more towards cosplaying from that than like anime. But for sure, like my favorite video game is Final Fantasy, and then for anime it would be Evangelion that I cosplay from. So
That's totally. Is there any series that you would cosplay next? Like, is there like any plans you have for different?
I want to. I got funded for it recently on Twitch, so I'm going to be starting a Yennefer, a Vengerberg
Oh,
cosplay
very
from The
cool.
Witcher. Yes, because I'm playing that on my Twitch right now, and I've completely fallen in love with the character. So I was like, okay, well, I have to cosplay her. She's amazing. I'm super falling into the Witcher series as a whole because I watched the Netflix series and I'm starting to read the books. So working on that, and then I finished Nier a couple months back, so I want to do A2 from Nier. Those two are kind of like the cosplays that I'm focusing on. And the thing is too is that a lot of my crafting has kind of slowed down a little bit because I don't have as much of a disposable income as I used to because I still live with my mom and I used to work like a retail job, but like I didn't have to pay rent when I lived with my mom. So with that, I was like, oh, okay, well then all my spare money goes to cosplay. But now that I'm an adult living on my own, and I have to pay bills, I can't like dump all these cosplays and tear through them the way that I used to.
Oh yeah, no, that's. But it's one of those things where in the cosplay scene, you see people. It's. I feel like it's almost like Paris Fashion Week in a way when we
Mm-hmm.
go to convention. 'Cause everyone
A little
has,
bit.
yeah, everyone has to have like, what is it, 4 costumes for the weekend, and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, or sometimes they have like, oh, on Friday on AM I'm gonna do this cosplay, and then PM I'm gonna do this
Mm-hmm.
cosplay.
Oh my gosh. I did that for like a little bit. Like costume changes in the middle of the day, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I'm too old, but I can't do this. This is not. I was like, I don't have the energy for it. I could barely get up at like a decent time. Like nowadays, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try. I ideally like to be out and about at the con before noon. Like 11 is like my ideal time. 10 would be fantastic, but it's like and like people doing like costume changes in the middle of the day, I feel like you'd have to be out and about by like 9 and then costume change around like 2 maybe and then but then like you also have to factor getting food and like there's just so much to do at conventions. It's so hectic. I can't do that AM PM thing like
Oh yeah, no,
crazy.
like for me, like so like say where I'm at Fanime, like
Mm-hmm.
my diet is like overpriced
Oh
muffins at the hotel,
yeah.
and then
Oh
the
my
the
god,
freaking
yeah.
street dogs.
Yeah, those street dogs are like lifesavers. Like some people are like, oh, they're disgusting, and I'm like, okay, but when you haven't eaten all day and you're desperate for food, they taste delicious, and it's better than nothing. Honestly, con diet is like one of those things. I see like on Twitter and stuff like that. Everyone always talks about like, oh, we need to be better about it, but it's like so hard sometimes.
Oh yeah, most
Um,
definitely. Um,
because it's like stockpiling food in your hotel is like one thing because that's a good idea, but like if you're out and about the entire time, it doesn't matter how much food you have at your hotel because you don't have access to it. So
exactly.
yeah.
Um, favorite convention,
Anime,
anime,
hands down.
hands
Yeah,
down.
super easy. Yeah.
Uh, name like name the second behind
Second
Fanime.
favorite? I would honestly, I'd probably have to say Sakura Con.
Yeah. Oh my
It's
gosh.
really good. It's the thing is too that I love Sakura Con because it feels just like Fanime. So it's just like Fanime, but just in the Pacific Northwest. So,
Yeah.
but both of them are really great. They're like good sized cons and everything. They're like not too crazy. I
Yeah.
love them. Are they your favorites too?
Oh yeah, no, like SakuraCon and Phantom, like definitely there.
Mm-hmm. Top
AL,
two. Yeah.
ALA because I'm like that's my hometown.
Yeah, ALA I think is probably my third ranked favorite
Yeah, I
when
feel
I ranked it. It's because it's good. It's smaller than Fanime and SoccerCon, but like the ribbon trading thing is just like it
yeah.
warms my heart. I really like that. I think it's good.
You're more of just like being the character, right? character, embodying that character for the day or
For the most part, like some people really like to act like the characters. I'm very shy. I think that I can be like awkward sometimes, but it's like I couldn't try to act like the characters outside, like for photo shoots I could try to like get into like the mood of
yeah.
like the character in order to portray how they look for like the photos, but like outside of that I don't think I could really do a good job like embodying the character so much. But there was a brief amount of time where I did do like panels at conventions, and so I would like back in 2014 when Attack on Titan was a thing, I did a couple of panels as like Mikasa Ackerman.
Yeah.
So I would have to, we did like improv games, so I'd have to like be in character and then also like improv. So like improv being a character and then improv playing these games. And it was like, I don't act, I've never taken like a drama class or anything. And I'm normally like really, I get like, stage fright and stuff like that. But I mean, I was there with friends, so it was fun. And I did a couple other things. Like I did a Madoka Magica, and I think I did like Tokyo Ghoul.
Very cool.
But yeah, so it was fun.
Because I say that because like whenever taking pictures of you as Tifa, there's like this
Mhm.
Tifa switch that hits, and then
Oh, really?
and then like you just like rather than be like goofy stuff, it's like I'm a confident, independent woman that runs a bar.
Oh my gosh, that makes me happy to hear. Because I don't like realize these things as much as like, because it's like I just feel like okay, like it's time to like shoot photos, and I'm like okay, I have to like get into the mood for these photos to be like taken, but I don't necessarily, like I never really like thought about how there's like a switch for me to like sink into like characters and stuff like that. But I mean, there is, when I'm putting on a costume, there is like a certain kind of confidence I feel that comes along with it, like because cosplay's always been such like a wonderful way for me to express myself creatively, that wearing a costume makes me feel a lot more confident than anything else, especially if the characters are like strong independent women. And that's the type of woman that I love to cosplay anyways, so
Yeah.
it probably all correlates, but I love putting on the costume because then I feel, it's still 12-year-old me on the inside feeling like I can dress up and pretend that I'm this like cool badass woman. So
That's totally cool. All right. As you're going through the scene, is there like any people that you've looked up to cosplay scene? Oh, that crafting is
oh yeah. Um December Wynn, I will always say, is my absolute favorite seamstress. She's absolutely phenomenal with a lot of like what she does. She really motivated me to up my sewing game because her work was always like so clean and elaborate. And then of course, Kamui cosplay is up there because her armor making skills are just god tier. She's absolutely amazing. Those two are always my favorites.
got it. We have some kind comments coming in from that. Um,
Yeah.
one person says Ren is the worst. I agree.
Yes,
um,
Red is all.
Falafel Fantasy. That is a really good name.
Yeah.
You look like my professor, but younger.
Which one of us?
Probably you because you have glasses, and I.
Oh, maybe.
And then like a really cool comment. And Andre Gael 93. She's already real life Tifa. No need for switch. That's a really
Oh my gosh. Very funny. Thank you, Andre.
really cool. Now, was there like a career that you were going to do like in college, like or like a major that you had?
Kind of. In college, I majored in psychology because I'd always been interested in the way that people think and the way that people like reason. I I was very interested in like cognitive psychology, so like neuropsychology, neuroscience, that sort of thing. Like brain stuff was always like my favorite. Um, but I think psychology is just kind of like more of an interest. Like I love face-to-face interactions with people, or just like interacting with people in general has always been something that I've been passionate about. And I liked psychology because it allowed me to feel like I had greater insight as to why people were motivated to do certain things. But honestly, like I don't know if I would have ever seen it as a career path because like I went to school for it, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a year off and then see if I wanted to go to grad school. And there was just so much that I was interested in psychology as a whole, and like I was like, okay, well, like maybe I'll be a therapist because like ultimately I knew like my end goal was that I wanted to help people.
Hmm.
Vaguely was like I was like I know that's what I want to do, but like I don't know exactly how to do it. I knew that I wanted to help motivate people to feel, like I wanted them to feel motivated to achieve their goals.
Hmm.
And feel like, especially if it was something creative, I wanted to help people feel like less alone and more able to tackle these things. And I was considering, going into psychology and like doing something with that. I don't know if I wanted to be like a school counselor or anything.
Hmm. Got it.
That I don't honestly like. I don't think that was really even my backup because I eventually got to a point where I was just kind of like, well, this is the sort of like cosplay is the thing that I'm passionate about. If anything, maybe I could inspire people by like sharing my story and doing what I do. Then
Hmm.
hopefully that can encourage people because like the baseline of like what I love to do and what I really want to do is like I want people to understand that I'm not different from them.
Yeah.
Is that because like a lot of people say like, oh, like you're amazing, like you do this, you do that, you do makeup, you cosplay, you do streaming. um and a huge part of me streaming was to kind of show people like playing for extended periods of time that I'm just a geek that loves to play games, and like I crack jokes, and I die in video games, and I say stupid things, like, but like I just want to show people that it's like, because like you have a lot of people that you look up to, and then sometimes you can dehumanize them when you're putting them like on this pedestal, and you
Yeah.
think that maybe you can't achieve the things that they have achieved, and that they're there's different people are able to do things, and because these people are like up there and are like special, that's why they're able to do these things. But I don't want people to think that, especially like in cosplay and like the creative fields. I want people to understand that it's like there is no, that difference is completely made up in your head. Everyone's the same. It's just a matter of like how hard you work and how motivated you are to go for what you want. So
Okay. Nice.
yeah.
Cause, cause it's one of those things where like it's really weird in cosplay where there's this feeling of elitism and like you have to be
Mm-hmm.
like a certain way. Like I personally feel like if you are coming at it wholeheartedly and you're like you're enjoying yourself, that's all that matters, really.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
So you are a cosplayer, Twitch streamer. What got you into Twitch?
Well, Twitch honestly was like the sort of thing that I'd always been wanting to get into for like years. Honestly, even when I was working a job in retail, I had a coworker who picked up Twitch streaming and was like, "Oh, you should Twitch stream. Like, you'd be really good at it and all this stuff." And I was always like, "Oh yeah, like eventually." And that was like, I don't know, 5 years ago at this point, and it was always something that I wanted to try, but streaming was so complicated, and like I eventually made like a Twitch account and was looking at it, but I was like, what's this broadcasting software? So it took me a long time to like really get into it, but I don't know, it was the sort of thing because I'd always loved video games,
Yeah,
so it was just sort of always there.
I see that. Like how long did it take you to really understand OBS? Really?
Oh my gosh. Well, because the thing is that I downloaded OBS first and now I use Streamlabs OBS, but it took a hot second, and like the hardware portion of streaming is always really difficult. If you tune into my streams, it's like every so often I'm always running into some sort of like hardware, like technical issue, like something's wrong, like the sound's off or something, and it's like I'm always running to YouTube trying to figure out like what happened this time, and always, there's always something depending on like what hardware you're using, there's always like some sort of issue.
Oh no, I completely agree. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where I know OBS a little bit, but at the same time, like
Mhm.
I sort of woke up today going like, all right, I'm gonna do this interview series. I'm gonna
Oh
go.
my
I'm
gosh.
gonna go hit up somebody, but in the back of my head, I'm like, do I know how to fucking work? Holy shit.
It's so like complicated, and like I have like a stream deck, which is like this tool. Let me see if I can like do
Yeah.
this, pick it up. It's like this thing right here, which like
Oh,
helps
nice.
me switch scenes and stuff like that, so it makes things a little more seamless. But it's like it can be complicated sometimes because you have to also like set aside the time to like set it up too, and like in order to set it up, you also have to know how to use Streamlabs. But I don't know. There's like so much stuff. I just keep going back to YouTube and just keep looking at things. I'm like, I don't know how to do anything
Like
at
I want to
all.
be I want to be able to do that. That'd be sick.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Like I'll see, like on Twitter, bits of like people's streams and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's like really cool. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? Like, how can I? I'm like, I'm sure they do something with the Stream Deck to make it seamless, but how do they do it? And
Yeah.
there's so many options on it, so.
Are you playing on Twitch? What video games do you plan on doing in the future for your streaming?
The games, so like the list of games that I'm playing right now, and then the list of upcoming games that I'll be playing.
Yeah.
So right now, I was playing Monster Hunter World, but I'm honestly gonna cycle that out. That's in the process of being cycled out because I'm gonna start Metal Gear,
Oh,
the entire
okay.
Metal Gear series. Yeah, because I've never played them before. Um, and then I'm playing the Tomb Raider reboot. I'm working on the second game of that right now. I just finished Little Nightmares. So I'll
Mm,
be starting Amnesia: The Dark Descent because I've never played Amnesia personally, but I've watched a lot of people play Amnesia.
mm,
And then, like I mentioned earlier, I'm playing Witcher right now, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Um, and I'm also playing Doom,
mm,
the 2016 version, and then I'll be playing Eternal, Doom Eternal when that comes out. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII, and I'm playing it modded. I'm playing that on Steam, so I'm playing it with this mod called the New Threat mod, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. And then today, actually, later, I will be streaming Death Stranding. Uh, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish that game today.
nice.
So I'm wrapping up that game today. Yeah. And so the new game that's going in is going to be Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
because I think the sequel just came out.
Mm, yeah.
So that's a game that I'm going to be playing because that game should be free. And then after that, I will be doing the Final Fantasy VII remake. And then other games that I have lined up that I'm going to play are I really want to play Bloodborne
Ooh.
because I've never really played, like, I played Code Vein, but I've never played like a Soulsborne game. I haven't played Bloodborne, so
Mm.
I want to play that. Um, that's most of like my upcoming plans. I recently sat down and came up with like a list of like, okay, these are all the games I finished. These are the games that I'm currently playing. These are games that I want to play in the future. Like, here's my backlog. Here's what I have. So
Yeah.
there's a whole ton of games.
It's one of those things where a lot of them are like narrative based games. Like
Yes.
what is it about narrative games that like make you like really like enjoy playing them on stream?
I mean, honestly, I have it on my Twitch description too, but like a lot of the games that I choose to play on stream are just like games that I'd wanted to play for a really long time and never really had the time to, which is part of like what I incorporated into Twitch streaming because I was like, man, I miss video games. I used to play video games all the time as a kid. So I was like, well, I might as well Twitch stream and then I can, play all these games that I've been wanting to play and kind of also bring entertainment to people, hopefully, and get to know people, interact with them. So, killing multiple birds with one stone. But I've always been drawn towards narrative based games, I guess, like growing up. I love games with a good story, are just so like appealing to me. But as a kid, like I always loved reading and stories and stuff like that. I feel like I'm always consuming some type of media where like, because like right now I'm reading through the Witcher books, like I'm always reading
Oh,
something.
you're actually
Um,
you're actually going through the books. Nice.
yeah, I'm reading the book 3 out of 9 right now, I believe,
Oh
in the
wow.
series. But I'm either always in the middle of like watching a show or, like or reading a book or something. Like I feel like I'm always consuming like a piece of like narrative media.
Mm.
Um I don't know, I just always loved stories growing up. And I love really like gritty dark stories of morality whenever possible. So like Death Stranding was a lot of fun because that's a very like it's Kojima, so it was a
Yeah.
very bizarre, fun, interesting game. And The Witcher has like an interesting world to get into, and then learning about like the Tomb Raider franchise. But it's also fun to play like shorter games that don't have like too much story. Like Little Nightmares didn't have like a great expansive story,
Mm.
but they're fun to see, the world and how people build these things that they've imagined.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Mhm.
Um, so you talk about reading. What are some of your favorite series that you've read that you could like suggest to people?
My absolute favorite book series of all time is a series called His Dark Materials.
Mm.
I'm absolutely in love with that book series. The first book in that series got turned into a movie. There's also an HBO show of it that I never really got around to checking out, and I should probably do that. But it's called The Golden Compass.
Mm.
Uh, but it's 3 books in the series. That's my absolute favorite book series of all time. Um, and I mean, like other ones that I've read, I like read a couple. I read like what's that one? I switched. The thing is that like I read a lot while I was in school, and then I broke off because I started reading a lot of things online.
Mm.
Um, that one's my favorite. I've read like variations of Peter Pan novels, Peter and the Starcatchers. One of my favorite. I'm trying to think of like what's on my bookshelf. I also have like there's this book that I read in I think like elementary school that I picked up at a bookstore, called The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. So like really old books.
Mm.
That I like super enjoyed stuff like that. They're usually like realistic fiction
Mm.
sort of things.
Got it. Yeah, no, like I wish I could like say like, oh yeah, no, I've read those things too, but I haven't.
No,
So,
yeah, no worries.
but other than that, like is there any like things on Netflix that you're interested like that you've been watching that you could suggest to people like that you
Oh yes,
yeah.
Carol and Tuesday.
There
If
you
there's
go.
anything I can plug on Netflix, it would be Carol and Tuesday. It's so good. It's a really good anime.
Oh,
I love it. I'm still working my way through with season 2, but Carol and Tuesday is so good.
wait, there's season 2 out right now?
Yes, season 2 of Carol and Tuesday.
Okay, I'm watching that as soon as
Yeah, it's so good because it's like they have the first 12 episodes of the first season,
yeah.
and then they have the 12 episodes of the second season. I was watching that a little bit because I would watch it while I eat breakfast, but now I've swapped over to just reading The Witcher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like one of the cool things of Karen Tuesday I love is that they talk about a future where AI writes music. And
yeah,
like yeah,
it's so interesting.
and I'm like, yo, that's true. That can happen.
Yeah,
And like I
it's entirely possible.
and I love it because it's like I I was a musician and it's like
Hmm.
their struggles go trying to make it up the ranks were things that I had to go through. Like
Oh yeah, so it's like really relatable.
oh yeah, very much so. So that's something that I was like, oh wow, like I had to play a shitty club. I had shady people that told me like I should play these things. But other than that, enough of me. What is it? So Karen Tuesday season 2 is a thing. Like when it comes to anime, um,
Hmm.
is there what is it? Is there a series that you're watching now other than Karen Tuesday that?
Honestly, not really. I'm actually not that big of an anime watcher.
Mm,
I watched it a lot when I was younger, but I don't know. As I got older, because I read really fast, I
yeah.
tend to read more manga than watch anime because it's so much faster for me.
Mm,
Like I can catch up in a series super quickly. But honestly, even then, I haven't read manga
in,
in a
in,
hot second. The series that I was reading, I was keeping up with Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, One Piece, Promised Neverland. I think were the only ones that I was really. Oh, and Haikyuu, I had caught up to, but I dropped them a while back, and I haven't really. I have a lot of chapters to catch up on, but like
no,
I said, I've just been reading the Witcher books, so.
okay, that's fair. Oh wow, no, that's fun. Like, because like it's one of those things. If this is me plugging this series. If I have one
Yeah,
series
no,
that
it's
you could that you should watch, it's Keep Your Hands Off
mm-hmm.
of Zilkin.
Really.
I love that series so much. It's about like 3 high school girls that like are making anime, and it's all about process. So
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like I might have heard about that.
yeah, like you have the project manager, the character designer, and the environmental designer,
Mm-hmm.
and they all work together to like make anime in like a really cool background, and
Oh wow.
they go into like their imaginations. I love it because like typically like most animes they peg the project manager to be like a complete asshole.
Really.
Yeah, but like this project manager is like really concise and to the point, and I love it.
That's good.
Like that's one series I sing their its high praises all the time. But other than that, as far as what is it cosplay in general, I think we're gonna be heading to cosplay on this one. Like, is there anybody that you wanna shout out that like you're good friends with that like you're like man they're really solid people. You guys should know about these people.
There's so many. I feel like there's so many people that I know. Like
Oh,
I love her to pieces. I believe her handle is Ellie Quest Cosplay on Instagram, which is ELLIE Quest QUESD Cosplay.
Mm.
She works hard. Her and I are both kind of going through honestly like a creative rut right now, but like she's amazing. The work that she does is super good. I love her. She's a super sweet girl. I have like the entirety of like my cosplay like family, which was like this group of people that they're just like super sweet and there to have like a good time.
Mm.
They don't take cosplay too seriously, you know, like we're always just like goofing around, and they mean a lot to me because I feel like in the past couple of years I've had a lot of brushes with like people that are bigger and people that pursue cosplay as like a very like career driven approach with cosplay,
Yeah.
and that's very different because like I've been cosplaying for so long with like a hobbyist perspective, and like I'm just kind of transitioning into it as like a job sort of thing, so it was very jarring to like meet people who see it as like a business thing rather than like a hobby sort of thing. So I'm grateful to like that group of friends because I feel like they always keep me grounded and
Oh.
remind me of like, you know, we're just a bunch of people wearing, you know, synthetic wigs and throwing makeup on our faces and we're just here to have fun. So I appreciate them for that. But there's a whole bunch of those people.
Oh yeah.
um there's a lot of really great photographers, you know, like yourself,
Yes.
that, you know, you guys are phenomenal because like, and I will always appreciate photographers like I mentioned because, you know, I will never forget what it was like being 12 and wishing like, oh wow, these photographers with like their big fancy cameras, I wish like someone would ask me to do a photo shoot, but I'm not good enough. And so
Just
that I'm like, you know, befriending like photographers like you, I'm always going to be grateful for that. Photographers like externalized photography, Mike, if you know Mike,
oh, Mike is good people.
he's a homie, he's amazing. I was just shooting with him last weekend.
Mm.
There's so many, like everyone in the NorCal community so much. Um, like I'd have to go through like a list, like everyone that I follow, all the beautiful, wonderful people.
Like
Um,
if I'll plug one person, like the way we met, um,
mm-hmm.
me and you, was my boy Zhao Cao, Zhao.
Yes, can't forget him. Can't
So
forget Zach. He's amazing.
I
He
love
does
the
great.
I
He's
love him
so
to
fun.
death. I love him to death because like was it whenever we're at conventions we sort of like let the night consume us, and like if we run into each other we'll just high five and just like move on to do our own thing. But
Nice.
but like when I first met Zhao, like I saw what was it? I think I met you first. You gave me your card, and then I met Zhao, and I go through his Instagram, and I was like, oh, this picture on your card stuff is the same as the picture on his Instagram.
Yeah.
I was, I was like, oh, you took this picture, sick. so I
Mm-hmm.
so I thought that
Yeah, he does really good work.
yeah I thought
That's funny.
yeah I thought that was funny. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Hi guys, I'm this like new photographer from SoCal.
No worries. We all connect somehow.
Yeah, like that Fanime was the connection of like SoCal and NorCal really, like Fanime in
Mm-hmm.
2017, and that's when we sort of acknowledged that we both exist.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like ever since then, like so many. I feel like there's been. I don't know if it's just because like I've also started going to more SoCal conventions, but I feel like the SoCal and NorCal communities have really opened up and like linked together since then.
How like what are some things that you could encourage people to in whatever they're doing, uh,
When it comes to cosplay,
yeah, or like in general.
I guess if anything, the number one thing that I would encourage to, I mean, you know, it sounds cheesy, but you know, always make sure that you're being true to yourself.
Mm,
You know, listen to yourself and ask yourself like what you want, and you know, make sure to check in with yourself from time to time. Ask yourself like why you're doing what you're doing, and hopefully the reason why you choose that you are doing is because it's something that makes you happy and brings you fulfillment in some sort of way. I feel like it's very easy in this day and age with social media and everything to self satisfy ourselves, likes and numbers and stuff like that. But when it comes to things like cosplay or other creative endeavors, just remember that it ultimately, you know, begins and ends with you and your creative doing. Hopefully, because you want to express yourself
mm.
and you get a sense of like self from that. I would say, you know, just keep that in mind, and I, you know, as long as you're doing things with heart and checking in, I feel you could never really go. I think that's something I would. Um, Other things, I guess, uh, do things that make you happy. I think most of the time, if you're in the right, like, proper community, everyone wants to see everyone are toxic. But for the most part, most people want to succeed in a lot of things. So the more I think about it, oh, I don't know, the toxic. But in the right community, people want to see you succeed. Find like a group of people that's really positive. If people are being really toxic, you don't be afraid to like walk away because positive community exist.
Yeah.
Out there, and that's the point of like why I have like my Discord, um, where everyone would want you to succeed. Everyone wants you to do good. It makes everyone feel better when you do good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Root for yourself, and hopefully everyone else around you roots for you.
very cool. Well, this has been a great episode. Thank you, Steph, for
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me. Yeah,
And
thank you.
if you don't know, you can catch her on Steph Stone Cost on Twitch. Follow her on Instagram. She also has a Discord. Go and be an active member. Uh, thank you guys for tuning in. We are. That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Take it easy. All right. So, thank you guys for tuning in. That was Steph Stone Koss, awesome cosplayer from Northern California. Uh, I am thankful for you guys to be here. Thank you for chatting. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to have